Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair. Tamarinu. And as we can see that this word is on the pattern of mafa'ilu. What does that mean? It means when a word comes on that pattern, it is mamnu min as-sarf, it is diptot, it does not accept tanween, and it does not accept kasra. For example, in the Quran, we have masabihu. Similarly, we have tamathilu, maqalidu. So any word that comes on this pattern, that is mamnu min as-sarf, or we call that diptot. So that's why here tamarinu doesn't have tanween. Why is that? Because it's on the pattern of mafa'ilu. Ajib anil asilatil atiyah. Answer the following questions. Lima yanzuru Adnanu fi as-sa'ati miraran. Why does Adnan look at the watch again and again? Does someone remember? He looked at the watch again and again, fearing that he might miss his appointment, right? So yanzuru Adnanu fi as-sa'ati miraran. So he looks at the watch again and again. Khawfan min fawatil maw'idi. Fearing that he will miss his appointment. Now we can see over here that miraran is mansub, right? And khawfan is mansub. So why two nouns are mansub over here? Both of them coming together. So why both of them are mansub? Now we can see that yanzuru Adnanu. So we can see that yanzuru is fail. Adnanu is fa'il. And we know that in every verbal sentence, when there is a doer, there has to be maf'ul bihi. So this is maf'ul bihi, the direct object, we say. And khawfan, we have learned in the previous lesson that it is maf'ul lahu or maf'ul li ajlihi, which is used to describe a reason. So khawfan min fawat al-maw'idi, fearing that he will miss his appointment. So this is maf'ul bihi and this is maf'ul li ajlihi or maf'ul lahu. لما حضر الدرس مع أنه مريض. Why did he attend the lesson while he was sick? So we know that حضر الدرس حبا للنحو, right? He attended the lesson out of his love for grammar. Again, we can see here that حبا is maf'ul لأجله or maf'ul lahu. So he attended the lesson out of his love for grammar. Now we won't say that hubban is maf'ul bihi. It's not maf'ul bihi. Even though we know that hadara is fi'l, dars is maf'ul bihi. So here hadara is fi'l plus fa'il, and ad-darsa is maf'ul bihi, and hubban is maf'ul lahu lin-nahwi. So again, we can see that there are two objects coming together. The first one is direct object, and the second one is called object of reason. لما منع الدرس زهيرا من الدخول. Why did the teacher forbid Zuhair to enter the classroom? Why did he stop him, or why did he forbid him? Yes, does anyone remember? Because we see that he was like late every now and then, right? So منعه من الدخول تأديبا له. The teacher forbade him to enter the classroom to discipline him, in order to discipline him. Okay. فقد أصبح التأخر دأبه وديدنه. Why? Because being late became his usual habit. And we have seen yesterday that da'bahu wa daydanahu is basically an expression which is used for a person who is late, and generally he is late as usual. So ta'diban, again we can see that this is maf'ul lahu or maf'ul li ajlihi, in order to discipline him. Addaba yu'addabu ta'diban, to discipline someone. Hadartu hubban lil nahwi. Huna hubban maf'ul lahu. Again we can see here that he said that I attended the class out of love for the grammar. Huna, here, hubban maf'ul lahu. Hubban is the object of reason. Al-maf'ul lahu أو al-maf'ul li ajlihi. So It has two names. Either we call it al-maf'ul lahu, or it is called al-maf'ul li ajlihi. In English, we say the object of reason. Masdarun yudhkaru li bayani sababil fi'li. It is a masdar, which is infinitive, yudhkaru, which is mentioned, li bayani, to describe sabab fi'li, the reason of action. Nahwu, for example, la taqtulu awladakum khashyata imlaq. Don't kill your children out of the fear of poverty. So we can see over here that khashyata is again being used here out of the fear. So when we know that basically it is used to describe a reason, and most of the times it should be some internal reason like fear, like love, like any other feeling that we have. So that's why this is used. Now, استخرج من الدرس أمثلة المفعول له. Now we have to extract from the lesson the examples of al-maf'ul lahu. And these are the examples that we have discussed in the previous lesson. إنما أفعل ذلك خوفا من فوائد الموعد. I do it out of the fear of missing my appointment. ولكنني حضرت حبا للنحو. But I attended the lesson out of love for the grammar. إنما يدرس رغبة في العلم لا رهبة من الامتحان. He attends the classroom out of his love for the knowledge and not out of fear of the exams. And the reason I'm going through a little bit faster because we discussed all these in detail in the previous lesson, and we know the translation as well, and we know the reason as well. So that's why we can go through these examples a little bit quickly. يدعون ربهم خوفا وطمعا. And this is the verse of the Quran that they call upon their Lord out of fear and out of hope. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ خَشْيَةَ إِمْلَاقٍ. Again, we can see over here that don't kill your children out of the fear of poverty. يَجْعَلُونَ أَصَابِعَهُمْ فِي آذَانِهِمْ مِنَ الصَّوَاعِقِ حَذَرَ الْمَوْتِ. They put fingers into their ears out of the fear of death from the thunderbolt. That there is so strong thunderbolt that they fear that they will die. So hadar al-maut is the fear of death. Again, we can see over here, hadara is used as al-maf'ul li-ajlihi or al-maf'ul lahu. Yunfiqu ma'lahu riya an-nas. He uses his wealth to show off to the people. Ra'a yura'i ri'a'an is to show off. We have seen in the previous lesson. So here it is used as maf'ul lahu in order to show off to the people. What's the reason behind that? Why does he spend his wealth? He spends his wealth to show off to the people. Innama man'atuhu ta'diban. I forbade him to discipline him. Addaba yuaddibu ta'diban, to discipline someone. Innama asbiru alayhi qasd al-islahi. I am patient with him in order to, for his rectification or in order for him to become right or righteous. Qasada yaqsudu, qasdan is like to have the intention of doing something. So with the intention of rectifying him. So these are the examples that we have seen from the lesson. We discussed them in the previous lesson. And once again, we have discussed them here. عين المفعول له في كل مثال مما يأتي. Now what we have to do, we have to specify the object of reason from each of the following examples that we have. قال تعالى ومن الناس من يشري نفسه ابتغاء مرضات الله. Yes, anyone over here? Where is al-maf'ul lahu or al-maf'ul li'ajlihi? I can give you one hint that it will be mansub. Yes, anyone there? Ibtigha'a, excellent. Ibtigha, yabtaghi, ibtigha'an. And we know that al-maf'ul lahu is always used as masdar. So ibtigha is the masdar of ibtigha, yabtaghi, ibtigha'an. Excellent. Yeah. Mardatillah. And that is to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Something interesting you might have noticed over here. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَشْرِي. But there are some people who sell their souls. We know that the meaning of shara, yashri is to buy. But in the Quran, it has been used. It can be used either ways. Yeah, it can be like وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَبِيعُ. But here it's not مَن يَبِيعُ. We know that that ba'a yabi'u is to sell, but here in the Quran, and this is a special verb as we can see over here, which is used in the context of selling something. So alhamdulillah, you remember that, perfect. Shira yashri shira'an, and we know that shira'an is used as maf'ul mutlaq, and generally in the Arabic language, ishtara yashtari ishtira'an is not used as maf'ul mutlaq. Usadiqu, sadaqa yusadiqu musadaqatan, I befriend zamili, my classmate, hadha, this one. So I befriend this classmate of mine, daf'an lidararihi, in order to avoid his harm. Yes,
Daf'an is the
maf'ul
daf'an.
lahu, yeah, daf'an, dafa yadfa'u daf'an, that is to get rid of something. So daf'an lidararihi, in order to avoid his harm. Okay, then we have ataghada, and we have the verb taghada. Yataghada means to ignore. Ataghada, I ignore. An hafawati asdiqai, I hafwatun, and the plural of hafwatun is hafawatun, that means like small mistakes. Ataghada an hafawati asdiqai, I ignore small mistakes of my colleagues or my friends, in fact. Istibqa'an limawaddatihim. Istabqa, yastabqi, istibqa'an is to retain or to preserve. So I ignore their small mistakes, or I ignore the small mistakes of my friends. What's the reason behind that? To retain their love.
Love.
To retain their love, yeah.
The brotherhood or something like that.
Or yeah, or wadda yawaddu muwaddatan is basically love, or hub, yeah, it's in the context of love. So in order to preserve their love. Okay, so where is the maf'ul mutlaq, sorry, maf'ul lahu over here? Istibqa'a, excellent. Istibqa'a limawaddatihim. And the hadith we discussed yesterday as well, Naha an-Nabiy sallallahu alayhi wa sallam an yusafira bil Quran ila ardil aduwi makhafata an yanalahu al-aduwu. Yes, makhafata, right? Makhafata. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam prohibited the Muslims from taking the Quran to the land of the enemy for fear that the enemy should harm it. Okay. أمامكم كل جملة مما يأتي اسم. In front of every sentence that follows, there is a noun. اجعله مفعولا له. Now we have to make it as the object of reason. وأكمل به الجملة. Then we have to complete the sentence with it. وضبطه بالشكل. And then we have to give it the right case endings. Okay. لم أخرج من البيت اليوم. Today I didn't go out of the house. من الحر. Okay, so khawf. So what should be the khawfan min al-harri? Excellent. Out of the fear of
heat. The temperature, the hot.
Yeah, of heat. Yeah, okay. Excellent. Then we have iltahaqtu bil jami'at al-islamiyati. I joined Islamic University. Fi ulum ad-dini. In order to learn religious knowledge, yes. Raghbatan. Excellent. Raghbatan fi ulum ad-dini. In order to learn Islamic knowledge. Lam aqra'il jarasa. I did not ring the bell. Qara yaqra'u, and then we know that this is sakin, and when we connect it with al, it will be connected with kasra. Lam aqra'il jarasa. An yastayqadha al-maridu. That the patient will wake up. Yes.
Prevent the sick from get.
So makhafa. Yeah, makhafata an yastayqadha al-maridu. Out of the fear of the patient. Yeah, the patient, out of the fear of patient waking up, that he will wake up. Okay. Qumtu lil mudarrisi ijlal. Ajalla yujillu ijlalan means to honor. So I stood up to honor my teacher. Ijlalan lil mudarrisi. So I stood up to honor my teacher. Aqra as-suhufa. I read the newspaper. Bughiyatan, baghaya, bughiyatan is to desire something or to acquire something. Al-ittala, ittala, yattali, ittala. You remember we have discussed this verb, and we have discussed 5 to 6 examples from the Quran. Ala ahwal al-muslimina, the condition of Muslims, fil alam, in the world. Yeah, so I read newspapers. Why? In order to seek. Yes. Yeah, so bughiyatal ittila'i, right? Bughiyatal ittila'i, and we know that it is being used as mudaf, and al-ittila' is mudaf ilayh. So I read newspapers to get news about the condition of the Muslims all over the world. Okay. La azalu albasu. La azalu. We know that zala, yazalu. So when we want to say there's something like comes to an
The
end, but
present tense, yeah.
yeah, with the past tense we say ma zala, and with the present tense we say la
La
yazalu. Yeah. So la azalu albasu malabis sufi. Up till now, I wear the woolen clothes. Yes.
khashyatan.
Khashiyatan an yusibani bardun. With the fear or fearing that that the cold weather might
Cold weather would harm
would
me.
harm me.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, would harm
Yusib.
me. Yes, this asaba yusibu isabatan is basically to afflict. Yeah, so I until now I wear woolen clothes, fearing that the cold weather will afflict me. Okay, excellent.
Ma asaba musibatin.
Yes. And asaba yusibu isabatan in the Quran has been used a lot, and it can be used in the context of affliction, and also sometimes it is used in the context of something that can happen to someone in a good manner as well. هلا غبت عن هذه الحصة. Why don't you get yourself absent from this class or this period? And هلا تشكوه إلى المدير. Let's complain about him to the manager. هلا حرف التحضيض والتنظيم. So we have learned that هلا is a particle of rebuking and also particle of urging. So basically
Urging.
tahdid is to urge and tandim is to rebuke. So it is used as particle of urging and particle of rebuking. إذا دخلت على المضارع, when it comes with the present tense, فهي للحض, then it is used for urging. على العمل, to do something. نحو, for example, هلا تزورني, like why don't you visit me? وإذا دخلت على الماضي, and when it comes with the past tense, كانت لجعل الفاعل يندم. Yeah, it is used to tell the doer or the dual when he repents some action, على فوات الأمر, for missing any kind of affair. So when a person misses any kind of affair, then in order to make him feel like regretful, and this word is used. تحاول, for example, هل اجتهدت, like why don't you work hard? So here we are telling him in the past tense that like if you work hard you will succeed, or you're telling him why don't you work hard. So هلا اجتهدت, we can say this to our child maybe when he doesn't really study hard, so we can say why don't you study hard. هناك أحرف أخرى. حرف, and the plural of حرف is أحرف وحروف. It has two plurals. أحرف is موصوف and أخرى is صفة, right? للتحديد والتنظيم, for urging and for rebuking. وهي Allah, and these are Allah. Then we have Allah, we have لوما and لولا. نحو ألا تتوب من ذنبك, why don't you repent your sin? So here we have, sorry, it's Allah. So we need to be careful the difference between Allah and Allah. Here it is with tashdid, and basically Allah is the combination of an plus la, if you remember. Yeah, so it is an plus la, and we know that noon is sakin.
This is except, Ustad, this one.
Yeah, except, yeah.
But
Illa
is except.
Illa is except, and Allah is that, and then we have that for something that we don't do it. So unla, that no, or that not, unla. Okay, for example, we have seen the examples from the Quran of lawla, but we haven't seen the examples of Allah, and we haven't seen the example of
Lawma.
Allah. Yeah, so we can see over here, Allah innahum humul mufsiduna walakin la yash'urun. Unquestionably, or indeed, so it is translated in different ways. It is they who spread corruption, but they do not realize. So Allah in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 12, has been used for the first time in the Quran, and it has lots of uses. So I think this is the first usage where we can see that indeed it is they who spread corruption, but they do not realize. Okay, hum. Does anyone remember why there is a repetition of hum over here? We have innahum, and then we have humul mufsiduna.
For emphasis, Ustad. And
excellent. And what do we call it? Damirul hasri. Damirul
Hasri.
hasri. Yeah.
Okay.
It is used to restrict something, because if we say innahumul mufsiduna, then it will be ishara and
All
musharun
of them.
ilayhi. Yeah, it will be incomplete phrase. But when we say innahum, then it will be subject and humul mufsiduna will be predicate. It is they, and we can see the translation. It is they who spread corruption, but they do not realize. قل تعالوا أتل ما حرم ربكم عليكم ألا تشركوا به شيئا وبالوالدين إحسانا. So again, we can see here, say, O Prophet, come, I will recite to you what your Lord has forbidden to you. Do not associate. So Allah, that you do not associate, as we can see here. Allah, that you don't, right? So that you don't, or do not, tushriku, associate bihi shayya, any partners, bil walidaini ihsana, and honor your parents. So we have seen the example of halla. We know that halla has not been used in the Quran. However, Allah has been used in the Quran. Allah has been used in the Quran, and lawla has been used in the Quran. Does anyone remember about lawla? What kind of
Lawla
particle is this?
rijalu minal mu'min.
Yes, but what kind of particle is this? What do we call it? Harfu imtinain liwujudin. Do you remember? We have law and we have lawla. Law is harfu imtinain li imtinain. That something did not happen because something didn't happen. For example, in the Quran, we have لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا
but it
من
didn't
خشية
happen,
الله.
that one.
Yeah, that didn't happen. But here, something failed to happen because something is present. What is present? Fadlullah is present over there. So because of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and because of his mercy, lakuntum min al khasirin. So had, as we can see here, if it had not been for the grace and mercy of Allah upon you, you would have surely been among the losers. So lawla, we have discussed about this in detail, and also we can see the example of Allah and also Allah. So the reason why we are discussing here, because in the previous slide we have seen that Allah is used, and also Allah is used, and Allah is used, and lawla is used. Lawma hasn't been used in the Quran, and similarly Allah hasn't been used in the Quran. So because our target is to be able to understand the Quran, that's why it's always a good idea to take at least one example from the Quran so that we can associate what we are learning. Hati mufrad al-asma al-atiyati. Now we have to provide the plural of the following nouns. Asabi'u. Why do I say
all those particles are used as rebuking or something to urge?
Exactly. للتحضيض أو للتنظيم. Exactly.
Okay.
So it depends on the context. Inshallah, when we read the tafsir or when we are reciting the Quran, we can see that from the context, because out of
So when it is used with present tense, it is used for urging, and with past tense for rebuking.
Excellent. Right? Yeah.
All
perfect.
particles, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Asabi'u. Yes. Does anyone remember the singular of asabi'u?
That is the finger, right?
There. Yes, excellent. Yeah. Isba'un. And the plural is asabi'u. It is mamnu min as-sarf. Please see here, because it's on the pattern of mafa'ilu. Mafa'ilu. Excellent. Then we have sawa'iqu. Again, this is mamnu min as-sarf because it is on the pattern of mafa'ilu. And the singular is sa'iqatun. Thunderbolt. Yeah. Then we have junubun, and it's the plural of jambun, and the plural is junubun, side or sideways. Then we have madaji'u. It's the plural of, it's a adverb of place, and it comes on the pattern of maf'alun. So it will be madja'u. Yeah, madja'un, and the plural is madaji'u. Basically, the verb daja'a yadja'u, that means to rest or to take rest. And then we have madja'un, which is basically the place of taking rest, and the plural is madaji'u. And if you remember, I told you once that whenever we have the plural of dharf or adverb of time and place, 99.9% it comes on the pattern of mafa'ilu. So we have madaji'u. For example, maktabun, makatibu. And then there are some other examples as well. And similarly, madajaun, and the plural is madaji'u. That is the place of taking rest. Sadaqatun, and the plural is sadaqatun. Charity, right?
This one is also like one of the directions, Ustad. This Junub or no? Like we have
Jambun. Jambi, like Tal,
Junub.
Ijlis Jambi,
This is
and
like Sau. No, Sharhia. Then
that
you
is
have
Junub. Yeah, Junub
this
is used for the, but this is Jambun, is like
okay.
someone who is sitting besides you. Jambun
Yeah,
and
that's
plural.
on the side of the Shati, Junub Shati. You just say like that, right?
That's
Like
right. Yeah, yeah. And someone is sitting next to you, so you say, "Huwa yajlisu jambi." He is sitting besides me. Okay. Now, adkhil da'biya wa daydani fi jumlatin mufidatin. It's an oral exercise, and you want to say that doing some kind of activity or action is my habit, or I do it on a daily basis.
and this phrase can only be used for persons who are like late or anything. It
That's
can.
something that a habitual action, something that is your habit,
Okay.
because that was used in the context of a person being
Coming
late.
late.
But if you want to say like walking early in the morning after Fajr prayer is my habit, usual habit. So you will say دأبي وديدني أن أتمشى بعد صلاة الفجر. That it is my habit, or it's my habitual action, that I walk every day, or I walk after Fajr prayer. So anything that we do that you like to do, which is your usual action, then we can use that دأبي وديدني. That is my habitual action. It's really I would say it's like kind of archaic Arabic, or maybe it's Fusha, very old Arabic. I've never heard anyone using this expression.
Yes.
I'll try using it with someone and see the reaction, like what the reaction is going to be, to be honest. Yes, I'll try it, inshallah. Okay. Then we have to use adkhil halla fi jumlataini. So we have to use halla in two sentences. Takunu fil ula litahdidi, in the first one as a particle of urging, wa fil ukhra litandimi, and in the second one as a particle of rebuking. And we have here halla tajtahid, why don't you work hard, and halla intadhirni, wait for me, right? Yes, we're telling him to wait for me. So this is intadhir. Intadhara yantadhiru intadharan. So this is basically fi'l al-amr. We know that it can be used with fi'l al-amr, and also it can be used with the past or with the present. We are almost there, alhamdulillah. So this lesson we completed quickly. This is the last exercise. Raghbatan fil ilmi, la rahbatan fil imtihani. So you remember the student, he said, Adnan said that I attended the classes out of my love for the knowledge and not out of the fear of the exams. And we have seen that this is la, which is basically used to connect. Yeah, la atifa, which is used to connect to.
Affirmative. One should be an affirmative, right?
Yes, yeah, we will see that inshallah. So هذه لا العاطفة. So this is basically la of connection. ويعطف بها الإخراج الثاني مما دخل فيه الأول. And a word is connected by it to bring the second out of from which the first has entered. So what does that mean? Basically, it means we have here Zaidun wa Hamidun. So Zaidun is the first one and Hamidun is the second one. So what we have to do?
Zaid has to enter in order for Hamid to enter, because Hamid cannot enter without Zaid entering.
Exactly. So the first one will be called as Ma'tufun ilayhi. And waw is basically harfu atfin, and hamid is ma'tuf. So there is basically a ma'tuf of hamid ala zaidin. So that's basically, so one thing has to be there in order for the other thing to happen. Do you remember any other harfu atfin from the Quran?
Yes, Ustad. Summa.
Summa, excellent. And?
Fa also is used.
Wow.
Wow. Fa, and
right?
Yeah.
Aw, and thumma and wow, these are the most common ones.
Even
okay.
fa, Ustad, fa sometimes.
Fa,
no?
exactly, yeah. That's also used. Wa shartu ma'tufiha, and there is a condition of connection. What is the condition? An yakuna mufradan, and that the ma'tuf should be a singular noun. Ay ghayra jumlatin, that means it shouldn't be a sentence. وَيَكُونُ بَعْدَ الْإِيجَابِ, and as you said, it comes after the positive sentence, affirmative sentence, أو الأمر, or it comes after فعل الأمر. So there are two more conditions. Okay, so the first condition is that the ma'tuf should be mufrad, and it should be a single noun. That's number one. And condition number two is that it should come either after affirmative sentence or it should come after فعل الأمر. نحو, for example, سافر بلال لا محمد. Bilal traveled and not Muhammad. So we can see over here, سافر بلال is affirmative sentence and Muhammadun is mufrad, and that's why we are using la over here to say that it is Bilal who traveled and not Muhammad. اشتريت الدجاجة مذبوحة لا حية. I bought the slaughtered chicken and not the alive one. Alive one, yeah. So we can see here, اشتريت الدجاجة مذبوحة لا حية. Again, we can see that after la, we have mufrad. We have only singular noun, and that's one of the conditions that has to be met. And the second condition is the sentence should be ijab, and it should be positive, as we can see over here. Or it can be al-amr, and we can see over here, is'al al-madira, ask the manager or the headmaster, la al-madarrisa, not the teacher. So again, we can see here, we have amr, and after that we have singular noun. Kullit tufaha, or it should be kulit tufaha, not kul, there is no tashdid, sorry. So kulit tufaha, eat the apple, la al-mawza, not banana. So kul, as we know, is fi'l al-amr. So it is from akala ya'kulu kul. Kul, khudh, and mur. You remember that? These are three special fi'l al-amr that don't follow a usual pattern of making fi'l al-amr. And all of them have been used in the Quran. So we have kul, khudh, and mur. These three don't follow the pattern of making fi'l al-amr. Alhamdulillah.
In the last line of the Surah Al-Fatiha, this is of which kind? Is it ijaba or it's amr?
Which one?
You said in the last line of Surah Al-Fatiha, the lam comes, right? The lamul atf, right? That's
that's la al-atifa. Why do we? Is this because we have ihdina sirat al-mustaqim? So ihdina.
So it is like commanding, but it's a dua. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's basically fi'l al-amr, but whenever it regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we say this is fi'l al-dua.
Yeah, okay.
Amr is for us, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whenever there is something we are requesting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, linguistically, grammatically, it will be fi'l al-amr. But when we talk about the meaning or the translation, it will be a request or dua that we are making to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.